So welcome to the Digital Business Leader Level Up. This is a virtual lunch and learn podcast series with Majesty AliNICOLE WOW, and that is me, and also King Rob Deptford. And we're excited to bring this series to you today. And so make sure you have plenty of note-taking materials so that while you're on your break, you can jot down some of the wisdom and insight that we're going to be sharing during this time. Now, we don't have a set agenda in terms of a topic when we come to these types of discussions here. We just kind of organically see what's going to come up and then provide value for you. So, King Rob, of course, thank you for
You
being here.
promised wisdom and insight. That might be a lot to ask. We'll see. I'm
Oh,
cutting back on my caffeine, so I'm going to have to work hard for that.
I'm sure that together we can take care of that, and especially in a short, window of time, we can provide some value. So I know that I mentioned we don't have a set topic. We don't ever have one, and things tend to always work out well. But something that has been sort of brewing more lately is the focus to talk more about the importance of having digital real estate. And we've touched on this, a few times in other trainings that we've done, but that's kind of been emerging in terms of, it seems to be an urgency to focus on that in terms of individuals taking or looking at social media as this is real estate, and do you make sure you have your properties aligned? Are you investing, correctly in the way you're leveraging, social media? So your thoughts around that? And we can talk about other things, but just your thoughts initially around that?
Well, I think you're right. I think we have to have a presence, and where we have that presence really depends on where your audience lives, where they're spending their time. I know for me, I've spent a lot of time on LinkedIn over the years, and have built up what is a reasonable following for me. I'm not huge on there by any stretch, but I've got something like 15,000 followers, I think now. And it has been effective for me in some ways and over the years in terms of attracting new clientele and new business. But I'm focused on YouTube now.
Of course.
And
Yes.
and you can't be every place at once, right? You have to, if it's just you, if you've got a team, you're in a different place. But if it's just you, you have to kind of pick what makes the most sense for you. And the thing I like about YouTube is I'm pretty good at video content anyway.
Of course, you're king.
And if you are somebody who can do that, YouTube is the only place where content lives forever. Whereas a post on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, especially, a lot of that stuff is just kind of a flash in the pan.
Oh yeah, it
Relatively
definitely
speaking.
is.
So pick and choose where you need to be, but you need to be somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. And on the note of you mentioning what you just said, this is perfect that we could talk about this, is that, yes, where you reside, so to speak, is definitely important. And what platform is going to have the content that is forever evergreen? And even though posts are forever evergreen too, but the searchability for those is not like when you have an article somewhere, when you have video, you have a blog post, or when you have a podcast with those different episodes that are archived. So it is important as it relates to how you are not just placing yourself, but what is going to be, as they say, what the biggest bang for your buck. And in this case, we're talking about time currency in terms of what you invest, in social media and where you show up. So I'm glad you brought that up, King Rob. That was great.
Well, I think you touched on search there.
Yeah.
And if you think about when you put a post out on LinkedIn or Facebook, you're kind of creating something and putting it out to the masses and hoping that a few people are going to pick that up. But with certain platforms, especially a blog post or a YouTube video, if you're strategic about how you optimize that content, then it can be found for the people who are searching for that topic.
Right.
So
Right.
you then become a destination for your audience, as opposed to, I'm going to just put this stuff out there and hope some people see it. So
Right. Yes, and that is critical. And so, since we're doing kind of a lunch and learn here, I guess we can jump into a quick little training just to provide some type of I guess, set up and structure that people can have sort of a call to action. So, since we're talking about positioning yourself accordingly and focusing and looking at your business agenda, looking at social media like it is real estate, okay? And since Rob brought up in terms of the content where it resides kind of forever, you want to make sure that you are positioned accordingly. So I guess the platforms that I would recommend is, Rob already brought up YouTube, and we're both huge as it relates to the YouTube initiative. Also, the platform Medium is a great platform to position on and to have your articles, your blog posts, there, and to build up some momentum on that platform. And even if you are just creating content that you can then leverage other places, that's still great. But you definitely want to make sure that you are choosing those platforms, like we've been talking about. So Rob, do we feel like doing a little more conversation around this? I certainly can jump into some tips and stuff on as it relates to this. And what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots. Podcasting is another one,
I was
right?
going to bring that up too. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So lots of options for sure. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's just a matter of where, not only where should you be, really it's where does your audience live? Where are they?
Right.
Who is your avatar, right? If you don't know your avatar, you don't know who you're trying to appeal to and attract to begin with, then you've got some work to do on that front. But once you know that and you've clarified a few things, then yeah, you can kind of figure out where are they going for information,
Hmm.
what kind of information are they looking for, and how can I align myself with that so they can find me.
Absolutely. And that is the key, is where you're not always having to constantly be out trying to market, but you're positioned enough so that you are, as we talked about, being searchable so that you can be found, because you also have to know, are you searchable? Are people even searching for what it is that you are providing? And so, as Rob mentioned about knowing where your audience is, this goes back to the real estate. So if you are a business and you're going to be setting your business up or building in a certain place, you want to make sure that you are building and positioned where people can find you, where people are going to come, and not be somewhere in the boondocks somewhere. You want to make sure that you do have a social media presence. um, King Rob talks a lot about having a digital footprint, and I believe that having a digital footprint is very much like having the real estate aspect, right, King Rob?
Yeah, that's as you said earlier, it's really your property online, your the
Mhm.
place where you reside online. And I think we were, for a while, we were in a place where people were concerned about creating a digital footprint because of privacy concerns and other things. And I get that. I get that. Um, and you worry about how people might interpret what they find about you online. But at the end of the day, the other side of it is if I Google you and I don't find you,
Right.
well, then you're in a different spot of trouble, right? You're in a different, you have a different challenge. And I don't think it's possible to avoid a digital footprint anymore. So I think we have to kind of take control of it and make the most of it. And to do that, you have to be active.
You're absolutely right. And something I want to bring up on the note of what you just said is that if someone, first of all, has a problem with being in the digital space and you're in business, that right there is a problem anyway.
Well,
um,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah, that's a problem of, if you don't want to be searchable and you're concerned in terms of privacy and different things. And as Rob mentioned, we understand that, but when you're in business, you do have to be searchable. You need to have a presence where people can find you. Now, again, it doesn't mean that you have to be everywhere, so to speak. You want to be in the places where your audience can find you. But I will say this too, King Rob, is that you also still need to have a presence even on platforms that maybe you aren't very active on. You still need to have a presence, because someone may stumble across that platform or someone who's on there and they can find out about you. And if your information, is there, then they still have a way to be able to, connect. Now, something else that Rob brought up about not being, you can't be everywhere all the time. And that's true, but there is a way that you can be sort of omnipresent, but that's going to involve syndication and systems. And he brought up something really great in terms of the awareness around, if you're a solo brand and you don't have a lot of team, where this is where you have to kind of be your own team, but take out some time to do some syndicated posts on a Facebook page that's not going to necessarily require you to be there consistently. You can schedule posts on there. If you use a platform that's called Tumblr, you can schedule posts on Tumblr. Also, Medium, you can schedule posts on Medium too. So there is a way that you can establish your digital footprint on certain platforms and not be married to them, so to speak, and have something that does blast out, even if it's once a month or once a week or so, however. And, you know, so just think about that. There's places you do need to be that you don't have to be all the time, so you can focus on the main platform, like Rob was mentioning, YouTube. So King Rob, your thoughts around that?
Yeah, you can save yourself time by essentially batch creating content.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And incidentally, you can schedule posts on LinkedIn now too, although be mindful of how platforms operate,
Yes.
because
Yes.
LinkedIn especially rewards engagement. So if you're going to schedule posts, you have to be aware that you've got a post coming out at whatever time it's
Yeah,
scheduled,
you need to
because
come back to it.
you got to
Yeah.
come back to it, because
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be in the comments,
Mm-hmm.
responding to comments, and keeping that post, nurturing it essentially, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
to keep that
Absolutely.
post getting some reach.
Well,
So
absolutely.
it does take your time and attention. But for something like YouTube, or a blog post on Medium or Tumblr or whatever, there's less of that requirement.
Right, right, right. Mm-hmm.
So that more type of evergreen content can be harder to do, more work up front, but take less of your time and less effort and energy in the long haul.
Oh, absolutely. And something I love what you brought up, because a good kind of training point too is being able for individuals to look at, because we're talking about primarily for business leaders, you do need to be engaging with your audience, but you do have time savers where you can syndicate. And if you know there's a platform that you're going to syndicate on, but you're not planning to really be on that platform a lot, then you wouldn't want to schedule a lot of content to post on that, where you can come once a week or however, and then engage that. You do need to be checking up on it, you know, regardless. But just leveraging social media again is digital real estate, so to speak. And just like you have to tend to your home or landscaping or so, or even if you hire someone to do that at some point, you just want to look at it in that way so that you can better maximize what you're doing. Your thoughts, King Rob?
Yeah, Twitter especially is about access, right? So
Yes, right.
if you're going to be on Twitter, you have to be prepared to be active and engaged with the audience on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's the place where people go to access uh, what we would refer to as sort of the untouchable celebrities and so on, right? The people that normally you wouldn't be able to just meet on the street and say hello to, but on
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, once in a while, you can get a response from a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole beauty of a platform like that. So, understanding how these platforms work and understanding that there is a commitment, you can't just automate this stuff
Right.
fully.
Yeah. Set it and forget it.
Um,
Not completely. Right.
Not completely, but if you do it right, and you have a system, then you
Absolutely.
can really get some tremendous benefits out of what is, relatively speaking, a small investment of your time with the right strategy.
With the right strategy. So on that note, before we sort of close out this lunch and learn, we've been giving food for thought here. So let's talk about business leaders starting to really set up a 30-day game plan so that they can be able to map out what's going to work best for them and sort of do some, not trial and error, so to speak, but just some testing in terms of sticking with something at least 30 days and seeing how it works. So even if that is doing some pre-syndicated batch content, of what I call the base content, and being able to create that base content and then schedule and then see how can you navigate engaging, with that, and especially if you're doing it on, a few platforms. So Rob, your thoughts around individuals maybe picking their majors and minors, maybe one major platform or two major platforms and a minor. So what are your thoughts around that for a game plan too?
Well, if you're established already and you understand who your audience is and what they want, then I think you're going to be in an easier place to be able to select where you should be.
Hmm.
So definitely pick a place that you're going to invest in more heavily, and then have a couple of other backup places just to kind of spread yourself out so that you can be
Hmm.
found in other places as well. But especially if it's just you starting out, then you've got to just pick one to focus on and
Hmm.
start building, and then you can spread out from there. If you're not there yet, you got to back up a little bit and you've got to figure out who is your target audience, what do they want, and do some research around what they're looking for, like keyword research, for example, so that you can
Mm.
create content that the people in that audience will find, and find it valuable. That's where you have to start.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, on the note of all of what we've been sharing, before we close out here, King Rob, would you like to kind of share the importance of why a business leader really needs to be operating in the digital space, especially now?
Well, it's where people have moved, right? I mean, you and I grew up in an era where we listened to the radio and we watched television, and
You're going to date us here.
yeah, I know, I know. But that was really where the presence was if you wanted to get attention,
Right,
where you needed to be. So we all know that in the digital era that has changed.
right, right,
And if you do not have a digital footprint and you're trying to compete in business, you're going to have a problem with that. Uh,
right.
so, you look at some of the world's top business leaders, Richard Branson, right? Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, all of these people, they're all somewhere in the digital space.
Right.
Whether it's on a social media platform or they have a podcast or something, they're all somewhere.
Hmm.
And they are leading by example. So I think other business leaders need to take that up as well.
I agree wholeheartedly. I agree wholeheartedly. All right. Well, King Rob, we've given some food for thought here for the virtual lunch and learn, and also inviting others to start to create their 30-day kind of testing out laboratory type of game plan so that they can explore it. And I'm glad that we touched on so many different levels, whether it's a beginner or someone who has been in the media or someone who is established, but now maybe they can do the level up, aspect of it. It's all about business enhancement, right?
It's all about business enhancement, and it's all about constantly learning, isn't it?
It really is. Absolutely. That's right. All right. So I thank you for being with me, of course, and being able to provide this value for others, and certainly looking forward to bringing more of these lunch and learn, these food for thoughts, getting these micro training and lessons in so that individuals, business leaders can move themselves forward for sure. So, all right. So, King Rob, we're going to close out here again. Thank you. And,
Thank you.
and we're looking forward to being back with you soon. Take this food for thought and implement and execute until we meet again. Take care.